Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the David Bomano Show. Just a heads up, in case you didn't know, my show got picked up by a national network called the Gotham Podcast Network out of New York City. I am so super pumped. They carry some great shows, and I can't tell you how excited I am. Well, I built up a bench of interviews for them. I am rerunning some of my top past episodes. Throwback today is a conversation with the great Kendra Scott, the visionary founder and creative force behind the Kendra Scott jewelry brand. Back in this episode, we talked about her journey from starting with only $500 to building a $1 billion company, and how she's built a mission-driven brand that's deeply rooted in empathy, creativity, and community. Kendra opens up about what it means to lead with heart and how she makes tough decisions. Yes, she talks about saying no sometimes, and why human connection is at the foundation of her business. We also dive into her personal values and how they inform everything that she builds, from designing to giving back. If you're into purpose-driven entrepreneurship, creative leadership, and building a brand that stands for more than just profit, this episode is packed with gold. So pour yourself a drink, get cozy, and enjoy this replay with the inspiring Kendra Scott. Hello and welcome to the Gonzo Experience. I am David Gonzo Mamano. So happy that you are here with us today, sharing your heartbeats with us for this episode, which I have to say, I am so I'm going to say it. I'm so damn excited. I've got a great guest. She's not, you probably know her. You probably have heard of her. And she's been a friend of mine, since 2007. And this is when she wasn't famous. So I got to see, this pre-business owner and then this post-global superstar. And her name is Kendra Scott. Kendra, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. I'm so happy to be here and love seeing your face, my dear old friend. This is so great.
It is so much fun. We've been trying to do this for a year, and you're just rocking it. And we're going to get into your story, but we had, I think I had to reschedule once. You had to reschedule like 28 times, but here we are.
You know what? Patience is a virtue.
That is true.
I'm proud. But we made it happen. We're here today, and that's all that matters.
We made it happen. I wait for really great things, and thank you so much for being patient too and making this happen. So, Kendra Scott, if you haven't heard of Kendra Scott, you probably have been living in a cave and or never heard of jewelry, maybe. But Kendra Scott is famous for her jewelry line, which we're going to hear the story. But I have to say, the way I met Kendra, and like I said, it's such a cool story. We were both in EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, back in 2007. And they have this program it used to be called Birthing of Giants. Then they changed it to the Entrepreneurial Masters Program.
Very fancy.
At MIT, so we sound really smart, even though I don't have my master's and I don't have a degree from MIT, but it sounds...
I don't have, and I'm a college dropout.
There we go. But we have our Entrepreneurial Master's certificate from
MIT.
MIT. So how smart are we? And
super.
So I met you in 2007. It was a 3-year program. We would go 5 days a year, right, for 3 years. And it was 60 of us from around the world. You were one of the only...
65.
Was it
65?
65. Yep. Okay. And you were one of the only women. And you...
Yeah, there was a very few of us. And then I ended up being the last woman. Yeah.
You were the last woman standing through that whole program, through the 3-year program. And look where you are today. You sucked up all that information and just exploded. So I want to hear the story, and I've heard it, but I want the Gonzo family to hear it about. So in 2007, you were in a very different place where you are today. You were kind of, we'll say Kendra maybe 2.0. You were rebooting. So let the Gonzo family hear this great story.
Well, when I started my company in 2002, and, I was a single mom. So when, going into this program, I was a single mom to 2 sons. And my business was, really kind of like flat, right? I mean, we were just selling wholesale. It wasn't, I wouldn't say we weren't growing, but we weren't like making big, huge moves. I was able to, pay my rent, pay for basic things, but it was, even paying for that program, to be able to be part of that program was a struggle, like trying to figure out how I was going to do that. But then being around all of these amazing entrepreneurs from really around the world. I mean, we had students from, friends that are now in South Africa, Australia, our Australian crazy classmates.
Yep. They were the fun bunch.
I mean, India, China, I mean, everywhere. It was just this incredible place to be and to learn. And, then during this time, we go through the recession, all of us together, and we're all business owners. That was a huge mix up for me because all of my business was wholesale. So when the recession hit, many of the stores that I was selling to were shuttering. I had worked with buyers from different department stores. They were getting laid off. So now those relationships I had built were, essentially gone overnight. And I really realized that my entire business was dependent on someone else to write orders, right? And that I was more worried about what the buyers wanted rather than what was most important, which was what my customers wanted. And so in 2009, at the end of our course and really taking all the things that I learned, looking at my business and seeing where we were from the recession, I realized I had to change my business model. That I would still sell to my wholesale accounts, but my focus was going to be directly to the consumer. And so built out my, online store. I created a creative, customization program called Color Bar, where you could pick your stones and create your own piece of jewelry online. This is before Nike ID and all those other brands were doing customization. And we opened our first retail store so that I could use it as a laboratory to learn from my customer. I really didn't think I'd be opening stores all over the United States, but I wanted to do it differently. And one thing I learned, during our course is if, you're doing what everybody else is doing, you're already failed. So you've got to be disruptive. You have to do it your own way and really think of it from a customer's perspective. What do you want? And so I built a jewelry store that was very different than any other jewelry store out there. There were no cases. There were nobody you had to ask to go look at something. Everything was freely displayed. You could pick it up, try it on. We had the Color Bar where you could sit and drink champagne and watch your piece getting made in front of you. And that laboratory store where I could learn, we had lines around the block. And that was a pivotal point of us realizing, wow, we have something special. And in 2010 to today, it's been lightning in a bottle growth. And really, but again, through having something very scary happen, caused me to rethink my business. But in addition to that, having all these great tools and learning from amazing mentors and friends gave me a solid foundation to build a really good business from.
And when you were in the course with us, I mean, you were still doing the jewelry by hand, right? Weren't you and
a lot of it,
right?
Yeah, I mean, we did have so every sample was made by hand. So we, did all of our sampling in-house and then worked with different manufacturers, but very small. I mean, we had we weren't able to really, I had to prepay for everything. So, I mean, I remember talking to you guys, I had a $10,000 float and I'd be trying to figure out how to pay my, vendors and negotiating, how to manage this because it was so hard. And then all of a sudden, I mean, I didn't have any investors. I was doing it all on lines of credit card debt, bootstrapping it 100% and doing this while being a single mom. So, it was really, really a scary time, but at the same time, failure was not an option. I could not let this fail. And I had to take some risks and I had to do things that sometimes were uncomfortable of I don't know if this is going to work, but I got to give it a go.
And I mean, being a single mom, two young boys at the time, you must have been so tempted to just go get a job. I'm sure there were opportunities, hey, Kendra will pay you 6 figures. And that would have been pressure's off. How were you able to, muster up the courage and continue to move forward, even though you didn't know if you were going to make it or not? It was a big risk every day. I mean, when I met you, like you said, there was no investors. You're cobbling together credit cards and dollars to day by day make it work. Yes. And so the temptation must have been there to just throw in the towel and go get the proverbial job.
I think there were days where you sometimes think okay, is that the easiest way to go? But I had a business before that I ran for 5 years that failed. I knew exactly what that felt like, right? And I did go get a job. I worked in corporate America. I worked for a magazine. I worked, would check in. And I mean, I had a time card. That's like back in the days when you would be like, it was like old school, like 9 to 5. I mean, I would time card in. I had to be there at 8:30. If you were in there at 8:35, my boss would be like, meh, And I just remember I had the worst, meanest boss in that job. One of the worst ever. But I'm so thankful because he was my best boss because he taught me how to never be as a leader. But I knew like that life for me wasn't a life I would ever be okay and happy in. And even though that this was so scary, I believed in it. And I believed in that we had something special. I believed that the product was great. And I really did like have an amazing support system around me through my father, great friends who really were like, you can do this. Like, we believe in you too. And I think, there's going to be days when you're going to feel like this is too hard or I'm not good enough to do this, or I'm not this enough or whatever. And it's really important that you have that support system around you to help remind you that you can do it. And people that truly believe in you. And there's going to be the opposite. You're going to have a lot of people that are going to say, oh yeah, you should just give that up. There's a million jewelry designers out there. You need to take those people out of your life and really surround yourself with the good people because you're going to need them. And you can't always do this alone.
I call that pruning the rose bush every now and then.
I like that. I like that one.
It's yours. It's yours. Yeah. The people that, don't, and sometimes they mean well, but they just don't get it. Right. And so if they're family, sometimes you got to put them aside a little bit. But if they're friends that are just bringing you down, they're toxic, negative. Yeah. It's time to move on. Right. So. Yeah,
totally. And I think too, look, you don't have to be a superhero through all this. I think a lot of people think, well, you're an entrepreneur and, but it's okay to ask for help. My sister moved in with me and helped me pay my rent. My mom would help me with my kids, and she would be there and as a great support because I couldn't afford a nanny or a babysitter, so I was like, Mom, can you help me sometimes? I think it's okay to ask for help and then finding great mentors. I had so many good mentors and it didn't matter that they weren't in jewelry. Business is business, right? And the fundamentals of running a business are really very much similar no matter what you're selling or what you're doing. And that to have good mentors to call and say, this is where I'm at right now. What would you do? Or how would you handle this? And being a sponge to learn. And for me, I'm still doing that. I mean, I wake up every day, David, and I'm running a company bigger than it was the night before. And so I'm always wanting to learn and how to gain knowledge so that I can continue to build and grow this business that I've created.
That's one of the things I love about you is because, you're so damn smart and you're such a hard worker and you're so creative, yet you're so vulnerable. Like you don't pretend to know it all. And I remember during the class when you had, questions, it was no problem asking them. It wasn't like you were worried about being embarrassed. And I imagine that as you've grown, that's been part of your secret sauce to success.
I think, and I remember, and I don't know if you remember this, but I remember it really well, that first day when we all got there and everyone was kind of puffing up like, I'm a Harvard grad and I have 3 companies and one is, blah, blah, blah. Do you remember this? And they're going around the room and you're introducing yourself. And I'm sitting in my chair and I'm like, I don't belong here.
I said the same. I'm an imposter. What the hell am I doing here? I only own one company, right? And I went to a state school.
I'm like, oh my God. And like, we're doing, 25 million in revenue. And I'm like, oh God, like, this is like, I'm like, this is not good. Like, I'm going to get kicked out of this class. And I sat in the back row and I was like, okay, maybe back here, no one will notice me. And when it came around to me, I had an option. Like I couldn't say I didn't graduate. I was a college dropout. Here I am, a single mom. I'm barely affording to get into this class. And I decided that's what I was going to say. I'm not going to try to be someone I'm not, right? So I was like, I have a jewelry company. I have a master's degree in the School of Hard Knocks. Mm-hmm. I did not finish college. And, some people were kind of like, whatever. And I was like, you know what? This is who I am. And as much as I, sometimes would feel intimidated by that, somehow I'm still able to be here, right? And I'm just so grateful and I'm excited to learn. And I'm happy to be in a class with all of you amazing people kind of thing. And that took I think after that, all of a sudden, after all these people, you guys, I mean, it was like that vulnerability allowed them to be able to be vulnerable. And I think sometimes we all try to like be this perfect, like we've got it all together and buttoned up. And I think the most beautiful thing you can do is be authentic, be your own authentic self, and know that the stories of your life, the struggles, the things that, or whatever it is, everyone has that, right? And they can relate with you on a more personal level, and not to be afraid to show that, because that's really, I think, shows your greatest strengths, right? When you can be that vulnerable and say, I'm not any of those, I'm not a Harvard grad, I'm not a whatever, but I'm really passionate about what I do. I love what I do. I'm thrilled to be a part of this. Wow, right? Then all of a sudden the connection is way different for people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that about you. And the best interviews that I do are the entrepreneurs that aren't afraid to say that their poop it does stink. And they share behind the curtain.
I don't know about that, David. I mean, come on,
Well, not
Let's
yours,
not get crazy.
not yours, but yeah, we're talking scented flowers over here. But I should have known not to ask you that. Rainbows, of course. Sunshine and rainbows coming out. I love that. No, but I wrote a book called Crash and Learn because it's stories of entrepreneurs that are willing to share what happened behind the curtain. Like everything is not, perfect, perfect family, perfect business. I'm on a cover of Inc. magazine with my Ferrari. No, there's a crap storm going on behind every curtain. And kudos to the entrepreneurs like you that will share that. And I remember you did tell us a story that day too about, it was that day or the next day, about that business that you kind of alluded to before. I believe it was it a hat store, and you did that for 5 years? Is that right?
Yeah. So when I was in high school, my stepfather got diagnosed with brain cancer. And my whole world kind of changed, right? When a lot of kids were, going to prom and doing other things, I was really spending a lot of time at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston with my mom while my stepfather was being treated there. And I met a lot of women undergoing chemotherapy who had lost their hair. And I had loved fashion since I was a little girl. And I actually loved hats, randomly enough. And so I had, some really cute hats at home. And I thought, well, I'm just going to bring them up and give them to some of these women as just a gesture, right? Because wigs were itchy. And I thought this would be nice. But the hats were also itchy. They were made of wool or straw. So then I went back home and I started sewing cotton linings inside of the hat so that they'd be more comfortable. And it just made me feel like, why isn't there more headwear options for people? And so I was my first year of college. I ended up saying, I'm going to take some time off and I'm going to try to do this hat thing, but also wanted to spend as much time as I could with my stepfather. I knew the time was really limited that we had with him. And so at 19, I started my first company, which was a hat company. And I opened up a hat store in Austin. I did some custom hats, but I really sold every kind of hat you could imagine. I mean, if you wanted a top hat, I had it. Jester hat, done. Church hat, amazing. Kentucky Derby. I mean, I was doing all the hats. And I really believed like I was going to open hat stores across the country. It was going to be like the next big thing. I was going to start a resurgence of people wearing hats like 1940. I mean, when you're 19, sometimes your brain, I don't know, I think your frontal lobe is still developing. I'm not quite sure, but clearly that did not happen. And so after 5 years of trying to get this business to work, I had to make the tough decision that it wasn't sustainable. I mean, I had to close it. And at that point, I had lost my stepfather. So he lost his battle with cancer. Now the business that I had started really with his inspiration, I had to close. It was one of those moments, I think, in my life that ultimate failure, right? Like even thinking like, do I have to move back in with my mother? I love her, but that was really not something I was super excited about doing. That's when I had to go get a job. I mean, I had to pay my rent. I had to pay for my car payment. I had to, there were just things that like I had to do. And now I had spent 5 years of my life in a business when all my friends have now graduated from college or even have in some cases had their master's degree. I was here with a failed business, no degree, and broke. And it was kind of, like as bad as it could get. But I remember the day I closed, and my store was like in a strip center. So that could have been part of the problem, but it was next to like a grocery store, not where you should put a hat store. I learned a lot about location,
milk,
sourcing
eggs,
after this,
and a hat.
But there was a sign, like, cause I couldn't afford fancy stuff. So I had a sign that I bought at like Home Depot or one of those places that say like, sorry, we're closed. And on the other side, it said, yes, we're open. And I remember closing, turning it in the drama of like, oh my God, this is the last time I'm going to turn the sign and, all of that. And I was sitting on the sidewalk and it starts to rain like any good, sad story, but this is like real life, which makes it worse. And it's like raining on me and I'm crying and I'm like looking up at the sky and I'm like talking to my stepfather up in heaven. And I'm like, Rob, really? Like it's raining. And I hear something behind me, but I was like, it was kind of wind. The wind was picking up, but the sign was inside. And I look around and it says, yes, we're open. And I know I changed that sign, right? I was like, I know I turned it. And I'm like, now I have to go back in and I have to go through this whole thing again, this whole turning of the sign. But then I sat there and I was like, wait a minute, this is a sign.
Yeah.
This is an actual sign, David. Like, this is amazing. Yes, we're open. Yes, we're open. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? Yes, we're open. Rob, what does yes, we're open mean? And I realized that it was kind of telling me, be open, that there's going to be something that's going to happen in your life. And if you close off now, if you give up now, and you don't ever try again, you'll never know what great next thing could happen. Be open to what could come your way. And, I had customers starting to call me, not for hats, but I had made jewelry in my store and they wanted the jewelry. They would ask for a pair of earrings to match their necklace. So I was finding myself buying stones and supplies and making pieces. And all of a sudden that yes, you're open sign was like, maybe what was my future was actually in front of me all this time. And I didn't realize it. Maybe this is the next thing I'm supposed to do. So making jewelry, why I had this corporate job, and then slowly morphing out of that job to then start Kendra Scott Jewelry.
Oh, freaking A. Drop. If you have a microphone, drop it. I've heard that story and I love it every time. I remember when you told it at MIT. Even the Australian guys, were tearing up. I mean, you had us going, man. That's such a great, incredible, inspirational story. So, and you didn't give up. And yes, you are still open. And I'm also remembering part of the story too about your stepfather. He gave you some very good advice that continues to shape you today. What is that advice?
He did. I remember when I opened my store. He was in a wheelchair at that point. He was a man who spoke 5 languages fluently, but the brain cancer really impaired his speech to where he could understand everything, but to put words together in a sentence started to become really difficult for him, kind of at those last year or so. And I remember wheeling him into my store and he was so proud, like just beaming, smiling, tears in his eyes, like just so proud of me. And he was trying to say something. And I remember kneeling down to him and saying, it's okay, Rob, like you don't have to say anything. I know you're proud. And he was like, no, like he was a Marine. So you listen to him. And I said, and he said, Kendra, he looked at me and he goes, you do good. And those 3 words was 3 simple words, you do good. But those 3 words, that sentence, I knew what he meant because we had talked about it so much before. And it was using your gifts that you've been given to do something good, to leave an impact. And I remember him telling me, we have a short time on this earth. And while we're here, we need to leave a positive mark. And you've been given all of these talents, so do something good. And for me, helping these women and men who were undergoing chemotherapy, he loved that I was using my passion of fashion and design, but I was also doing something good. And so when I closed the hat box and, I restarted, few years later doing Kendra Scott, it really was those words, you do good, which I carry with me all the time of, I want to create a business that allows me to do what I love. Now I was a brand new mom when I started Kendra Scott. And I wanted to give back. I wanted to leave my mark. He died when he was 47 years old. I turned 47 this year.
Wow.
And I think about that every day, David. Like every day is a gift and an opportunity for me to continue to do something good. When I started out of my extra bedroom, I would say, like, if a charity called, I'd never say no. I could make a necklace for a silent auction or whatever. Here we are almost 20 years later. And we've given over $40 million to women's and children's charities.
Wow.
I could have never imagined that we could have accomplished that in those early days of starting my business. But for me, that's how we measure success at Kendra Scott. And it's like, I know he would be like, we're doing good every day. And that's what I think gets me like jumping out of bed in the morning to keep going.
You've got one heck of a guardian angel, that's for sure. And
I do.
And I think the secret of what makes you so special, this is my observation, is that wherever you're lifting others. Your spirit is an energy. It's so contagious that even, when you, in our class, yes, you were the only woman at the end, but I don't care who you were, just your spirit like lifted all of us. And I think that, when I brought you to Rochester years ago, remember for my EO event. Wasn't that fun? And you were,
it was so fun.
You were such a highlight. I mean, everybody was loving it. And I remember, I remember a lot of people that I knew after that wearing your jewelry, right? Like you made a lot of sales that next week in Rochester, New York.
I love it.
But it's
so fun.
So you're a good contagious. So
good. Yeah, exactly. Not the bad kind.
Not the bad. Yeah. As we go through this damn pandemic. Right. So, but apparently in Texas, it doesn't exist. Right. You guys are all here in New York. We're under, we have to wear a mask to bed. So,
you know what? I mean, it's funny because I think we're still, in our stores, we want people to wear masks. We're still doing sanitizing. We're not really still at complete, we could be at full capacity, but we're still being really thoughtful about it. Right. And, I think we're close though. I feel like I can see the rays of sunlight, kind of breaking through the clouds and feeling like there's some sense of we're going to get back. And I don't know what normal. I think it's going to be a new normal post-pandemic. How we run our business, I know, is going to be different than it was pre-pandemic. We realized our team works great from home. Actually, in some cases, more productive and happier and all of those things. So, I don't know if, having big office spaces and all of those things are going to be as necessary in the future, right? So I think this has given us, just like the recession did in a lot of ways, sometimes, it takes something big, right, to make you rethink how we do things. And the whole world was affected by this. And I think we all have something in common. Every single human on this planet has a common thread, which was COVID. And, that unites people in also not in an ideal way, but it unites you, right? Because we all have suffered through this. We've all lost or know of people that have lost family members or friends. And, I think we can all really relate to one each other as humans again, which I'm hopeful will come out of this a little more united as a global community.
Yeah, I agree. It was just a sledgehammer wake up call in many ways, right? Revamping everything from business to your point, just being a good human, personal relationships, being a little bit more kind and compassionate. And so that's really great. So I want to get back to your business a little bit because we were talking about that you were, still, you and some workers were still hand making some jewelry and then, and going direct. And then, as I've been following your journey, you started opening up your own stores, right? Kendra Scott stores. Yeah. And in upstate New York, I believe we have one in Buffalo. Is that correct?
We do. Yep.
And but then also you started getting some calls for some big retailers as well. And it was just a few years ago, the big, was it a VC company, whatever they call them? This is how I'm not familiar with that piece of the world, but came knocking on your door. Private equity. Yes, private equity. Came knocking at your door and brought you to a new stratosphere that I know you always think big, but did you ever think, like big with a B as in billion? I mean, you're like...
Right.
It was a big step.
So what's so funny is, do you remember when we were in our class, they had the big, hairy, audacious goal, the BHAG?
I do remember that.
And my BHAG was to be $1 billion brand. That was my big, hairy, audacious goal. And that's the goal that seems like so far away that you don't even think it's possible.
Yeah.
And so when we were, going through this process of bringing in a new partner, we were going there doing the evaluations of our company. And I remember being on that call with our banker and our attorneys, and they said, we've got 7 or 8 firms, right, that were all courting us because we didn't need to do this. We were, running a really smart business. I mean, amazing margin, great, healthy EBITDA, like all the things you want. But it just felt like for me, it was also that getting the right strategic partner to where we could elevate the business more. And when we started getting the numbers and they're like, Kendra, they're coming in at around $1 billion. And I was like, I was on the phone and I kind of felt like, did I not hear that? And I said, I'm sorry, did you just say with a B, billion? And I was like, because the only B word that I really knew prior to this in the early days was a potential bankruptcy. So this was like
there you go.
Very different B word.
There's your book, Bankruptcy to Billions.
I was like, billion. And I just remember thinking, your big, hairy, audacious goal, it can happen. And, we learned very much about putting things out there, right, in our goal planning and really seeing our future of what we want our business to be. And we do that every year. We do our 3-year, painted picture, vivid vision, I think now Cameron's calling it.
Yep.
But that really gave us this aligned goal, right, of what we wanted. And then we could start to build the game plan and the roadmap to help get us to that destination. And, when it all kind of happened, it's still surreal. Like, it's surreal to me. When I look at like some of these lists too, that I'm on with like Beyonce and like Lady Gaga and Taylor Swift, I kind of just chuckle because I'm like, I mean, is it a mistake in the article? Like, it's hard to get your head around it, quite honestly.
Well, you're just a simple girl from Wisconsin, right? So
I am. I mean, my mom's family were farmers and coal miners, David. Like, never in a billion years did they think anyone would be, we'd be in this place. But it's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the beautiful part is another B word. The beautiful part is you're still the same great Kendra that I remember meeting. Just fun and outgoing and compassionate and kind. And so kudos to you for not letting the billions go into your head. So
no, you know what? I mean, my hands are all scraped up right now because I'm out there pulling weeds and, doing stuff in my backyard. So, people think I think a lot of times they think, oh, she's this, billionaire, jewelry fortune, whatever. And you're right. Like, for me, nothing has changed. The only thing that changes now for me is instead of being scared about, paying my rent or doing those things, I don't have to necessarily worry as much about those things. But now I have an opportunity to do so many cool, good things in the world, So this past year, finally after 20 years, being able to come in as chairwoman and passing the torch on as CEO has allowed me to really focus on our philanthropy. I started a women's entrepreneurial and leadership institute at the University of Texas. So we're doing so many cool things that now I'm getting to this next phase and chapter to, add value to the company in a new way, but expand kind of my own horizons, which is exciting.
At age 47, you get to become chairman. I love that.
Chairwoman.
Chairwoman. Did I say? Shame on me. Chairwoman. You are absolutely correct.
Chairwoman.
Chairwoman. Yes. With a capital W. Chairwoman. Now that's super fantastic. Another great thing I love about you is you've been so dedicated to your kids, right? You have 2 boys. And
3.
Oh, 3. That's now. Right. They have 3. That's right. I do remember the third one. Yeah.
Yes.
And so tell us, for all the parents and maybe single parents out there running a business, which is, very challenging, very time consuming, very stressful. But I know you always made them, even though you had this beautiful business that was growing, you always made them your focus. How did you do that? How did you manage that whole balance?
I think that's a question I get asked often, right? And I always say, before being a CEO or a designer, I was a mom. And that was my most important role. And creating a company that supported that idea, right? And that I could have a great career, but not only me, anyone that worked at Kendra Scott, any woman that worked at Kendra Scott could be a mother and also have a great career. So like creating that environment was really important to me and prioritizing it. I don't want any of my employees to miss a soccer game or a doctor's appointment for their kids, or if their kid is homesick, they should be there with them. I don't want them to have to feel that stress, because that was important to me. And, when you can create that environment, it's amazing what can happen. And you can do it both, but when you have to have that support around you. And, our employees at Kendra Scott, we have so many moms. I can't even tell you how many pregnant, COVID. We have so many COVID babies coming at Kendra Scott, which I'm so excited about, because we value that, right? We value the ability to have work-life balance. And everyone at Kendra Scott always knew, and just as I feel that way about them, is my kids come first. I could be in a podcast with you right now, and if one of my kids was needing me, I'd say, David, hold 1 second. And you would understand that, because
Totally.
that's my priority. And, my boys are, we are a tight team. And I just, we're like a symbiotic, I started it when Cade was a baby, 3 months old. He went with me on every sales call. At age 3, he had 75,000 frequent flyer miles, because when I'd go to New York to do a trade show, he came with me. My kids, I never am away from them more than three days was my rule when I was running my business, which meant that a lot of times I'd have to start meetings at 7 a.m. breakfast and end with dinner ending at 10:30 at night, and do it all again the next day, just so I could pack it in to get home and get home back to them. And I think there's no such thing as balance. There's some days you're going to do it great, and you're going to feel like, I hit on all cylinders today. I'm running my business great. I'm super mom. I made it to all the things. I baked the cookies. I got dinner on the table. And then the next day you're going to be like, oh my God, this was terrible. I didn't help him with I forgot about his chemistry project. I was supposed to help him. And oh my Lord, I forgot to bring his cleats for soccer, and I got to run back home. Every day is like, you just do the best you can. And I think it's okay. Like, no one's perfect. These Instagram perfect family people with the shiny faces and everything looks like that is not, like you said, that is not real life. Every family is just every day trying to figure out how to balance it all. Whether you're a single mom or you have, a mother, father, you're lucky enough to have that situation, it's really amazing. My oldest son is 19. He, is in South Africa as we speak, doing this amazing internship before he starts college next year. I have a 17-year-old, and then I have a 7-year-old. So, all over the place, but it's so fun. And I think they're a big part of the Kendra Scott company too. They've been there in the office with me. I had their pack and play when they were babies. The older boys grew up in this company. They know it inside out and backwards. They know the name of every stone. They know, because they were just, it was like, hey buddy, you're coming with me. So it's been fun.
That's awesome. So you said that I get to ask you anything, right? Because we know each other, we're friends.
Yes.
So we're gonna have some fun now. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
So great name, Kendra Scott. Great name for a jewelry company. The David Mamano Jewelry Company probably wouldn't go over too well.
I don't know. It's got a ring to it.
Well, my entrepreneurial ADHD, maybe I'm going to think about it. But, but what was your maiden name?
Baumgartner.
Baumgartner.
Kendra Baumgartner Jewelry. You don't think that would like blow off the shelves, David?
Do you? Well, with your chutzpah and talent, it just might have. But Kendra Scott made it a little bit easier for you, right?
Well, no, I'm telling you. So, I've not been very successful at necessarily marriages. I'm successful at other things. But my husband, my first husband, John, his last name was, they introduced me as just John Scott, right? And I was like, Scott, 5 letters or less. This is great. No, he was great. He's great. We are still super close, and we have 2 amazing sons, and we have so much fun as friends. And we actually work a lot together. So it's one of the greatest things that happened. But I told him, I'm like, I got that last name, and I'm never giving it up. It's Kendra Scott. It is what it is.
Yeah. So you got 2 great boys from that marriage and a great last name.
A great the greatest last name. And I will not change it. I'm like, sorry, John. Like, it's just,
Right.
I'm going to have the last name forever. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Other marriages, you're like, I'm not taking your name.
No way.
Scott's my name.
It's yeah. The only bad thing is like when you go with you're with somebody and like, they call them Mr. Scott and they're not Mr. Scott.
Right.
So that can sometimes be an issue, but we're trying to figure that out.
You're working on that. Very nice. So next question, you're looking back. What is your most embarrassing moment to date?
My most embarrassing moment to date. Oh God, I've had some real good ones.
You've had some doozies?
I can't. I'm thinking of one of my most embarrassing. There's several. I have to think about which one would be the most. But I think there's this one where I was trying to sell into. I think it was Bloomingdale's, and it was early on, and I finally got in, and it was like one of the vice presidents, like not just a buyer, right? And they took me out to this really fancy place in New York City. And like, again, like this is when I'm living on a dime, right?
Yep.
And they were taking me out to dinner, and the white tablecloths, the guys dressed in the tuxedos, like super fancy. Like you have 20 different pieces of flatware, that you have to figure out what to use, like 16 wine glasses. I don't know. There's just a lot going on. They like present this like beautiful bottle of red wine that's like, aged in some cellar in Tuscany for 500 years or something. I don't know. It was very fancy. And, they pour it with the thing in all of our glasses and we would do a little cheers. Yeah. Well, you see what I'm doing right now. I talk with my hands, David.
Yeah, very Italian of you.
And I'm telling a story. I know that's shocking. And I use my hands and I knock over this full glass and it knocks over the wine. The entire, it's like all these glasses start falling.
Like a domino.
Red wine is everywhere. And I'm just like, oh God. This is like, I almost was like, this isn't really happening. Like, this is a nightmare. This isn't real life. And the people come over and they immediately like clear everything out, get everything rechanged. But I was horrified. Like the most, and then the rest of the night, I just like held my hands in my lap and I was like barely spoke.
You couldn't talk, all right?
That was a pretty embarrassing moment.
That's a good one. That's a great one. Like kind of a bloodbath, right? But hopefully, it worked out for you. Hopefully, it worked out for you, right? So I'm sure they thought, well,
actually, I didn't get an order for 2 years after that. 2 more years to get them to place it.
Let's bring her back. See if she can handle the wine this time.
Yeah. They're like, oh God, she's the red wine,
That is funny. Well, thanks for sharing that. I haven't heard that story yet. So I know that you are a learner. You love learning. What is, I'll say, I'm sure you have a lot of favorite books, but what's one or two books that come to mind that like really helped you grow your business and yourself?
God, there's so many. And I feel like some of the books that we read, during our time at MIT, I love Tipping Point. Yeah. I remember reading that book, and it was one of the reasons why I decided to have they call it like a crown jewel of your company, which is kind of funny because a crown, I actually do jewelry, but it's having a signature piece that becomes recognizable and that you kind of really take that piece and promote it. And that became my first custom cut stone, the Danielle, which became everywhere. And that really became from my thinking of Tipping Point, reading that book. I've always loved The Great Game of Business. I still think it's a great book. It's a classic. It's wonderful. Serving Happiness, the Zappos from Zappos, I think is an incredible book. There's so many. Sometimes I feel like I always have a book that I'm kind of like by my nightstand. I have a business book and then I have a novel, and I go back and forth between them. And I'm always learning something new, and I think that's so important to continue to do. Yeah.
Well, I'll make a suggestion for you. It's one of your favorite books. Well, since we were talking about Cameron Herold, who was in our class, but also a speaker, Double. I think his book came out a few.
It is a great book.
Really
and
good.
I always recommend Rockefeller Habits to every young entrepreneur that I mentor. I always am like, read this book. It just gives you good disciplines. I thought Vern did such a great job condensing really great principles of a lot of different books in a very simple book. So I mean, that's always a winner for a young entrepreneur.
I agree. Rockefeller Habits changed at that time. I read that book and I revamped my business. We created the war room and we started doing huddles and just so I think I adopted everything within the course of about a year and drove my team nuts, but it was a great thing to do. So
it was excellent. It was.
So my next question, if you could go back in time and have a conversation with somebody who is no longer living, yet they're not related to you, who would that be?
Have a conversation with someone who's no longer living that is not related to me. This is a hard one.
That's
there's a lot of people that I'm like so inspired by. Like I would love to meet Nelson Mandela, right? Like I would have loved to have met him because I just feel like talk about perseverance and what he overcame and being in jail. I mean, like there was so much, right, that he had to overcome.
It's so funny. I got to interrupt you just for a quick second. So Warren Rustand, Warren Rustand, he was on my podcast, Big EO speaker. So I asked him that question about 2 months ago. He said Nelson Mandela, but what was cool is Warren actually got to talk to him when he was alive. So he met him when he was alive. And he said, I want to go back and I want to talk to him again. I was like, that's the first time anyone ever said somebody that they had actually met. Because I've had Jesus Christ, I've had Gandhi, I've had, and that was kind of cool that he actually got to talk to him when he was alive as well.
I just feel like, if there's ever been, and I loved reading the book, his biography, and I just feel like, the amount of pain and struggle, right? But never lost his spirit. And he was one of those people that the presence of him was healing and amazing, So yes, I think it would be Nelson Mandela.
Love that answer. That's fantastic. So my next question is, so you said your age. I know you're not supposed to ask a woman's age, but you said at 47. But of course, you look 27 and act 17. So
I won't argue with you. I think my 17-year-old may be more mature than I am, for sure. So
my kids,
right.
you know that rolled eye emoji. My kids give me that, like, Dad, you're supposed to be like an example.
I know. I'm like, Mom, you're so embarrassing. I'm like, I know.
I'm sorry. My inner 12-year-old wanted to come out and play.
You know what? I used to be, I have to tell you, I never wanted to talk about my age because I was like, especially after I hit when I hit 40, I was like, I'm not 40. Like that seems so old, right? For so long. And I think what I realized, I lost one of my really good friends in 2016 to breast cancer. And I think about now birthdays so differently. And I'm now also thinking about Rob and how much he wanted to continue on, right? I'm like thankful. And I also feel like you're right. Like I'm 47 and I look good, right? Like I'm looking good. I take care of myself. I should be proud of who I am and not be like, I'm 47. Like,
scream it from the mountaintop. Scream it because it's inspirational, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, I get, all the time people will be like, you have a 19-year-old son? And I'm like, I had it when I was like a teenager. But now I'm like, no, I am in my 20s, but it's one of those things where I'm like, I really have gotten to that place of comfort and confidence in my own skin. And it's the same thing about the vulnerability thing we talked about before. Why do I feel like I have to, like I should be not wanting to share that with someone? Like I should be proud of that instead of feeling like, oh God, I'm so old now, Yeah. And I'm so thankful. Like every birthday, I'm so grateful. Grateful. And I think this last year too, with the pandemic, just seeing the amount of loss that our country and our world faced, it's like life and health is a great thing. And we should all be so proud of where we are in our age and stage of life and embrace it and be like, yes,
every day. No, you're every day that we can put 2 feet on the floor and get up is a true blessing. About a month ago, I had a fellow Austonian, what do you guys say down there, of yours?
Yes, Estonian. Yes.
So do you know, he used to go by JT, but now he's Javon McCormick from Scribe Media?
Oh, I don't.
Yeah. So it's the biggest self-publishing company in the world. Cameron has done 3 books with him. And I'll send you. It's about 3 episodes ago. He's half black, half white. That's what he talks about. He was his father was a pimp. His mother was an orphan, and so and he homeless, starving. I mean, like just abused. But now just so happy, 4 beautiful kids, beautiful wife, doing so well. I need
to meet him.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised you don't know him. He's in Austin too.
Yeah,
one of the most inspirational
people are in Austin. Let me tell you, this is a pretty cool city.
Well, and then I know a lot of people in Austin. I definitely got to get down there again soon. It's especially now that you're there.
It's the boom town.
That's what I've heard.
Right now.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
But JT, I'm going to call him Javon because that's what he calls himself now. He said something so great. Like people, they complain about their age or they complain about the weather or, they're finding things to not be happy about. And he said, he goes, you know what, Dave? He goes, there are people that are, stuck in bed because they're sick. Maybe they have cancer and they can't get out of bed to experience the bad weather, to experience what you're calling a bad day. They would love to have your quote unquote bad day. They would love to have to drive through the snow on a gloomy day. And it just, and I already have a great mindset and so do you, but it's so great to just bring that to the next level with philosophies and strategies like that. It's because it is a mindset at the end of the day.
It is, I have gotten to a place where I wake up every day and a lot of times I write them down. I have a journal next to my bed of 3 things I'm grateful for today. And I think if you start out your morning with gratitude, it changes the course of your day. And no matter what comes your way, right? Whatever it might be that day, it's that kind of positive mindset of what to be grateful for. And they can be saying some days, a lot of days it is health for me, being healthy is huge. And I think, being a mom and my kids and, there's so many things, right? But I think if we focus on the things that we're grateful for in the start of your day, it'll change the rest of how you kind of look at everything.
I am so darn grateful that I met you in 2007.
Me too. I know that. I am so grateful for that class. And I have 64 brothers or whatever, 62 of you or however many you are, literally that I can call any time of day and y'all would, be there. And I love that. I mean, it's really been an unbreakable bond with that group of classmates. And I think it's so special. And it's anywhere in the world, I think I can travel. One of our classmates is there, which is really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I know some of the guys, Mark and team, they were planning a reunion in New York City, and then of course COVID shut that down. I'm
trying to pitch Austin. Did you see that in my text? I said you guys need to come to Austin. It's the cool city. Let's do that.
That makes sense to me. That makes sense. Yeah, right? I say Austin. There's no doubt about it. I will come down, even if it's just you and me. I'm coming down there. Absolutely.
Okay.
I just like saying all y'all. I learned that phrase in Austin that it's the plural of y'all. All y'all.
Yeah. So y'all is just it could be one person. Hey, are y'all coming? But if there's a group of people, are all y'all coming?
Yep. I learned that. I was in Austin many years ago, and I was at an ad agency trying to get some advertising for the magazine that I owned at the time. And I was with my Texas franchise guy, owner, and we were waiting in a conference room, and a woman came in and she goes, are all y'all ready? And I said to myself, that is the plural of y'all.
That's the plural of y'all. Yeah, it is true. It's true.
So,
I mean, there's a lot of good Texas slang I can teach you guys when you come down here for sure.
All right, that's it. I'm making it official.
I love it.
Kendra, thank you so much for sharing your heartbeats with me today. Totally appreciate it. It was worth the wait. And I feel like I want to do this every year with you just to follow your success and see what's next as you're the chairwoman. And now that you have more time to, give back and do just great things for the world, I want to continue the conversation so that we can talk about that and learn more about the incredible impact.
Would love to. And so happy to see you and be here on your show, and so excited for all the cool things you're doing as well. You're amazing.
Thank you, Kendra. Hey, if people are in love with you, and let's face it, how could they not be? and they want to reach out and learn more about you, what are some great tools to get in touch with you?
Well, you need to go to our website, which is kendrascott.com. Very easy. Follow us on our Instagram at Kendra Scott. So you can find out all the cool things that we're doing from our Kendra Cares programs, our philanthropic endeavors, look at great jewelry, which is always really fun. So yeah, follow us and go to our website and see our color bar. You can do customization online, all the fun stuff.
I love it. Kendra, thanks again. I wish you continued massive success.
You as well. Take care.
Thank you. And I also want to thank the Gonzo family for listening to yet another show. I've been doing a show every Wednesday morning for almost 5 years. And so continue to stay tuned every Wednesday morning. Make sure to go to the Gonzo Experience, subscribe, download, whatever you want to do. Follow us for a new episode every Wednesday. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day.